ingredients in it. When you read the side of it, ain't no juice in it.
Disgusting.
Soybean oil, this oil, that, this and that, all up in there. But you go and look at Minute Maid, it says what? Oranges. 100% orange juice. 100% oranges. So stuff like that, it looks like orange juice and it kind of tastes like, but it ain't orange juice. It's chemically synthesized orange juice. So this company uses parts from aborted fetuses to fool your taste buds into believing that, oh, this is orange juice. Or this is grapefruit juice. Or this is grape juice. Or this is cranberry juice. Anything on it that says no juice on it, and it has all these ingredients, but there's no juice in it at all, it's nothing but chemicals. It's chemically synthesized food. So it's basically foodless food. And you got companies that develop foodless food for these big-ass corporations that have all the aisles stocked up at your local supermarket. That's it on that?
I got Ciroc.
Yeah, get that in Ciroc.
Ciroc 25 and 24.
Right.
Of the woman came the beginning of sin.
That's what the scriptures say. Go ahead.
And through her, we all die.
Wait a minute. Like I said, 16 million babies aborted. Who aborted them? The scripture said, through them we all die. How did all them babies die? They came through that woman's womb and they didn't make it. You know, basically it's like right now, 5 out of 10 black children don't make it to see the day of light. To see the light of day, excuse me. 5 out of 10 right now. So that's a 50% birth failure rate. 50% don't make it to see the light of day. 50%. That should let you know something, man. Our very enemy is our very own woman. That's our number one enemy. Well, the white man, but then at number 1.5 is her. Because she does the bidding of the fucking white man. That's his dragon lady. That's his bitch. We don't even have no woman no more. That's the white man's woman right there. You don't believe it? As soon as you start to make some money and you start to make something of yourself, white man's coming to strip that money from you, and the nigga bitch is coming to strip that money from you. Think I'm lying? How many black athletes out there marry black women, and they were stripped poor by them damn women. As soon as they got the money, stayed with them for a few years, had a couple babies, and took their ass right to court. Took their ass right to the clinic and raped the shit out of them. Thousands upon thousands of them NFL players are broke now because of that situation. Black NFL players, baseball players, basketball players, broke, boxers, broke because of the motherfucking woman. Two things, white man and the woman. Broke their ass down. As soon as they got it, took them right to the clinics. And you think you got a woman, you think that woman ain't with you. They with Satan. They with Satan. That's it on that. Let's go back into what we was talking about the spirit, John 6:63, and get that back to Jeremiah.
St. John.
I really ain't even want to talk about that shit.
St. John chapter 6, verse 63. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. Right.
So the thing that's going to cleanse you, like it said in Matthew's 3rd chapter, when it said, the one who comes after me, who is stronger than me, he's going to baptize you with the Spirit and with fire. The Spirit is talking about the Word, and the fire is also talking about the Word. Read that in Jeremiah 5. It's like 5, I think 23, something like that. Somewhere around there. The brother, he had it, but he must have had a job. You know what's that? It's Jeremiah 5 and 14. 5 and 14?
Yeah. It says, this is Jeremiah 5 and 14. Wherefore thus saith the Lord, the power of hosts, because ye speak this word, behold, I will make my words in thy mouth fire, and this people wood, and it shall devour them.
Right. I will make this my word fire, and this people wood, and it shall devour them. They're going to be burnt up. When people hear the truth, they get pissed off. They want to fight. Because they don't like being told the truth. The Lord said that our people are hard-headed. And that's in what? In Ezekiel, right? It's Ezekiel, the 3rd chapter, I think. The Lord said how our people are hard-headed. And he said, look, I send you to a backsliding nation. Israel is going to do everything else under the sun except be who they are, which is Israel. They want to be what everybody else is instead of being what they're supposed to be. And even on a low level, everybody follows what you do anyway. Why people want to cock wear their hat to the back? Because you do that. Why people want to sag their pants off their ass? Because Israelites do that. Why people want to try to do hip hop? Because Israelites invented it. Why did people want to sing blues? Because it was Israelites that was singing blues, doing rock and roll. Why everybody else wanted to do rock and roll? Why everybody else wanted to do R&B? Because Israelites invented all that. Go ahead.
I got 2 for you. Jeremiah 51:19. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things.
Right. But he is the former of all things. You check out all of the inventions that are used, or all of the things that are used on a day-to-day basis that make this world go around. Every one of them, pretty much, it was a black inventor that invented it. Excuse me. I can't think of the guy's name, but the cell phone was invented by a black inventor. The traffic light, black inventor. Putting sound to picture, because the films were silent with subtitles. It was a black inventor that put the sound to the picture. Black inventor did that. There's a black inventor that invented the subway system, the third rail, the pantograph system when the train comes out, and then the pantograph lifts up to catch the electricity up top. Black inventor invented all that. The switching system that's used for the subways down there, Granville T. Woods invented that. What's called the strut, or it's called the McPherson strut, goes back to a Negro inventor named McPherson that invented what was known as the McPherson strut. Now there's a variation of that on every vehicle out there. Goes back to a Negro named McPherson. Even the term the real McCoy goes back to a black inventor named Elijah McCoy. And he invented this like assembly that stays attached to the wheels of the train to keep the bearing oil on the bearings of the train, because back then every time the train got to a stop, someone had to get on both sides of the train and go with a can of oil and lubricate the bearings on each wheel before the train would take off to its next stop. So this guy Elijah McCoy invented this thing that would stay attached to the wheel, and it had the bearing oil in it, so while the train was moving, the bearing would constantly stay lubricated. Then you had other people, crackers, who tried to copy his invention, and it wasn't working. The oil was leaking out and all that. So then they started saying, look, you got to get the real McCoy. That's where the saying the real McCoy goes back to. Because if it wasn't from Elijah McCoy, it was a piece of shit and it wasn't going to work. So they said, look, you got to get the real McCoy. You got to go get the real McCoy. That's where the real McCoy goes back to. But during Whack History Month in the food system, they ain't going to tell you about that. They ain't going to tell you about him. There was another brother, I forget his name, up in Brockton, Massachusetts, who he invented an automated assembly line to make shoes. I can't think of the guy's name, but in Brockton, Massachusetts, he automated, because the shoes, go right ahead, because the shoes everything was done by hand. Everything was stitched on by hand. The laces was put on by hand. He invented an assembly line by using old parts from out the junkyard. And he put it together, took him a few years. Then once he got it finally working, then they brought it and put it in the shoe shop, and they were pumping shoes out so fast that the owner of that shoe company bought up all the other shoe companies and became the biggest shoe producer in the world, because no one could get the shoes out and into the stores faster than him because of that automated shoe assembly line that this black inventor created that was working for him. Don't get no credit for nothing. Go ahead.
It's Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 21. For there is a man whose labor is in wisdom and in knowledge and in equity, yet to a man that has not labored therein shall he leave it for his portion.
Right. To a man who has not labored. The man that didn't labor to create that thing is the one that's making a shitload of money off it. That's what it's going into. Hell, Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin. The cotton gin separates the cotton seed from the cotton, so they can take the cotton and put it in bundles and sell it all over the world. Separating the seed out of the cotton. The cotton gin it separates the cotton seed from the cotton. And it does it faster than you can do it by hand. That was what Eli Whitney, right? So it's turned out, hell, the Farmer's Almanac. Benjamin Banneker invented that. The Farmer's Almanac, which all the farmers use it to know what the forecast, what the next season's weather and what the crop is going to be like. So it's tons of things out there. It's tons of things. There's another guy, I can't think of his name. He was the guy responsible for how they got those army rations. He was a black chemist. He figured out the way to preserve the army food for long periods of time. When the boys is out there, the food won't go bad for long periods of time. Then it was applied to canned goods. Then the canned goods industry took off from it because the same technique that he used was used when they canned the goods so it could sit long times on the shelf without going bad. Another black inventor, black chemist. I can't think of his name, but that's another example right there. So those are examples of stuff that black inventors created that during Black History Month, you're not taught about that. The only thing that you're going to get taught about during Black History Month is motherfucking Martin Luther King. That's what they're going to teach you. Keep hope alive. Turn the other cheek. That's what they're going to tell you. When you read about the Lord, hey, the Lord was about violence. I don't know, these people are stupid, man. When the Lord walked up in the church and seen the people up in there selling merchandise, really what was going on, the money changers that were sitting at the table, they was beating people out of money. So when the Lord seen that, he left and went and made a weapon. Then he went back up in there and whooped ass and flipped over the money changers in the temple. So don't tell me about the Lord being peaceful. Because when the Lord comes back, the Lord's coming back for war. And the only reason he didn't let the 12 disciples loose was because there wasn't time for them to get loose back then. He told them that back then. He said, if this was my kingdom, my servants would fight. So these stupid ass people thinking that the Lord is all about love and fucking flowers and shit, they out of their goddamn mind. The Lord said, if this was my kingdom, my servants would fight. There wasn't time for the kingdom to be set up back then. The disciples thought he was coming to set the kingdom back up. And the kingdom is only for Israel. That's another thing. The kingdom ain't for everybody. That's another thing. Oh, get that. I think it's in John. He said, the kingdom dwelleth within you. And the one that says from the time of John the Baptist until now, that might be in Matthew. Oh, what you got?
I had to account that you talking about the Lord.
Go ahead. Yeah, read that.
This is John chapter 2 and 13. And the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Yahushua went up to Jerusalem and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and the changers of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge of small cords...
When you go look up, it said then the Lord went and made a scourge. He went and made a whip of small cords called a cat of nine tails. And on the end of each one of those little cords, they back in the ancient time would put a piece of jagged bone or glass at the end of it. So when they swing it, it'll dig into your skin and rip your shit. So it said he went and made a scourge of small cords. Who got a Bible dictionary on? Look up the word scourge. I think I'm lying. This is something that they ain't gonna do tomorrow in church. They're not gonna do this. They're not gonna break this down. It said the Lord went and made a scourge of small cords. Then he came back in. So he looked and seen what was going on. Like, okay, I got something for their ass. When he made a scourge, the brother pulled it up right here. You just gotta tap it. It says, this is what he went and made. A scourge of small cords. We're gonna read the definition on that. It said he went and made one. So he went and made one. Then he came back. That's what he went and made. He made a scourge of small cords. You got it right there?
Scourge. To whip